Okay, the HUDZ committee will come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderwoman Davis,
Present.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderman Coder,
Here.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Odenberg,
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Here.
Chairman Rhodey,
Present.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Spencer.
Present.
7 present, you have quorum.
Okay, now I gotta find where I put the agenda. I believe it was approval of the minutes was the. Where is the agenda at? Okay. Okay, so let's see, we had we have one excused alder person, is that correct? Alderwoman Boyd?
No, Alderwoman Hubbard, I'm not sure if she.
I'm sorry, Alderwoman Hubbard. Excuse me. We have these sets of aldermen with the same last name, so it's not fair. Okay, so we'll excuse Alderwoman Hubbard for her necessary absence. Approval of the minutes. The chair will entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of the June 3rd, 2020 HUDZ meeting.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderman Coder,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman Odenberg,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Chairman Rhodey.
Aye.
7 aye votes.
Okay, we have approved the minutes. We're going to adjust the agenda a bit today. We have a special presentation from SLDC. We will be putting them on first. And then as is common or as usual practice, we will be going ahead and hearing the board bills of the people who are not on the committee. That we have 3 board bills by people who are not on the committee, and then we have 3 board bills by people who are on the committee. So we'll start off with the presentation of SLDC. And I'm not really sure, we haven't done this before, but do we turn the controls over to the to Mr. Williams, or how does that work then?
They would just need to unmute their microphone.
Okay, we could go ahead and unmute their microphone. In the documents that were sent out, there should be documents that they have, and I think there was another email went out just recently on that. This is a project that we've been working on. It's a report that's intended to give us an idea of year to year what's going on with the incentive programs that we offer, whether it's TIF or tax abatement. So at this point, Mr. Williams, if you care to take the microphone.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will be sharing our screen to go over several of the documents that we shared, we sent to each of the board members. Each of you should have a spreadsheet that has a summary of all of the projects that over the last 3 years or
just 2019.
2019 spreadsheet, but we will show the activity that has occurred over the last 3 years as well during the course of this presentation. You also got a copy of this presentation that I'm about to share with you. So the very first slide, just to give you a sense of the number of projects that SLDC approved and sent to the Board of Aldermen, there were 55 projects, and only one of the 55 was not approved by the board, and that was at the request of the sponsor, in this case, Alderwoman Green. The number of jobs based on all of those that were sent was 2,382. Number of residential units that were created, 2,885. And that square footage, the commercial square footage, you can see is 882,000 square feet. Number of hotel rooms at that time was 607, and that for total development costs during that period of $987 million. So I wanted to give a sense of how this equates by ward over the calendar year. And you can see what the activity was throughout the city as far as projects that were incentivized. There were projects that were ongoing that were not incentivized as well, and we will show that on the maps. But this gives you a sense of the number and location. The next is a summary chart that looks at incentive projects by type and use and type. And so there were 12 commercial projects, 3 redevelopment districts where they were sort of area-wide, multi-home development, 4 hotels, 1 mixed use, 16 apartment buildings, and 18 small residential that were more than $1 million. Less than $1 million. I was thinking we were doing more than that. Okay. So as you can see, the total 55 projects there, and so the incentives projects by scope, 15 new construction and 3 new construction with rehab, and 3 in a redevelopment district, and 34 rehabs. And so the incentive projects by incentive types, using the EEZ, there were 3 in LCRA 50 and 2 TIF projects. We can actually do questions at the end, but if you have questions about these charts, we can speak to those later. So I want to show you the activity, and these are building permits that were issued in 2017, and you can also see the key that is on your graphic there, that the light blue essentially shows you all of the building permits that were greater than $100,000 in various areas. Then you see the green shows you the incentives that were granted to get those projects done. And so you can see the areas where they are. Those that were greater than $1 million are larger bubbles there. So that's 2017. We're going to build on that and go to, this is 2018, added to it. And you can see where the activity did occur. And then on top of that is 2019. So you see all 3 years of activity throughout the city. The last chart is where we are with 2017, 18, 19, and 2020 through the last month. This chart is, while it's a little busy, you can see the different kinds of activities that are happening, and this includes the demo projects that are there, vacant buildings that have been demolished, and those kind of things. So this is all the activity under our control that has occurred.
LRA sales,
Yeah, and so I think one of the key things here is that we're also pointing out the number of LRA sales that have occurred. And if you look at your key there,
blue or LRS?
The blue sort of diamond shape are LRA projects that were sold. The yellow circle EEZ projects, there should be several stars on here for TIP projects. The sort of orange-red looking triangle is the vacant building demolitions that occurred, and the blue blocks or blue circles will also be tax abatement projects. And this is for 2019. So this is a way of capturing the activity that has occurred throughout the city during the calendar year. So one of the things I wanted to brief the board on is the fact that what we want to move to is sort of a transparency in all of our reporting. What we do currently is essentially do a capture through spreadsheets and information, and we add that to our spreadsheets. And so what we have done now is to move to a different sort of an online access to our incentive analysis. And so most of you know that a few years back we did hire both John and Matt to do financial analysis, and Matt more into the planning mode. But this is a way of cataloging all of our incentive analysis. And what we're doing is all of those things that we have done in the past, we will have them online, and we will make that available to the public via web. The project analysis output summary, you can see the kind of things that would be there: the project name, location, brief description of what the project is, total development cost, and then the project dashboard is probably more important. And so that would be available. That will be available to the public. And one point that we always, and I think each of the board members always look at, is what the incentive score is and what the developer return is. That's one of the key things that will be available to the public as well. And this is that project dashboard that I think all of you have seen, and the kind of information that will be there. And so we will be adding this kind of a dashboard to all of the older projects that were previously analyzed as well, so they will be available online. This is we did a search of a number of best practices around, and one that we sort of like was one that Cincinnati was doing, and so some of the things that you see in the future may look a little like this, but vary a bit based on modifications that are appropriate for St. Louis. But the idea is to understand what is happening within our different neighborhoods and our different reports, and the kind of summary total information that we're starting to share with you now. We can look at various visualization tools, but this is just one aspect of it. So
This is from the Vacancy Collaborative.
and this is really from the Vacancy Collaborative, something that they are doing already. Just to show you an example of the fact that we are trying to take and evaluate data and understand the impact of what that data means to us in the city as well. So as we do the evaluation and get the feedback from the economic development framework, it will involve us being able to provide better information to you, the board, to make decisions. So, Mr. Chairman, that is the report. Do you have any questions?
Real quickly, Mr. Williams, that last set of slides that you had, I don't think that was in what we received. Is that?
Reset this.
It was resent to you this morning. Okay, so I apologize for whatever reason we missed sending that in the early packet, but you should have an email from Zach Wilson this morning that would have provided you with the new packet.
Okay. And then when will the website be live with this information?
We're currently working it. I would be hesitant to tell you exactly when.
We'll have tips.
We're to a point where the data is organized, we're transferring it into our database, and then from our database, we'll be able to build out the dashboards.
So the first leg is TIF. As you know, we have, over time, we've probably passed about 150 TIFs since 1999. So it's that the package, and then it is all projects of $1 million on over and tax abatement. And so, TIF will go live probably in the next couple of months.
Okay. And then I didn't see a slide that showed the value of the tax abatement or the value of the incentive. Do you track that as well? So we have value of incentive?
Actually on that spreadsheet, I believe.
We do, for projects over millions on the dashboard, on the projects under $1 million, we send a report to the taxing districts, but we can include that on the Excel sheet.
I think that's going to be important going forward, because we want to begin tracking the incentive versus the value of the project, I think, and really get to the point where we know how much incentive we're awarding. And, you know, I think in time, we can get more strategic with that as we understand it better.
Yeah, that is something that is in our scope.
Mr. Chairman, what we will do is we will get back to you with an updated spreadsheet that will have that information on it.
And then I want to comment. I know this is we've been after you for a while on these things, but I think collectively your staff has made a tremendous transformation over there in the last several years, Mr. Williams. And this is the type of data. It just takes time to collect it. I know, given where our information systems are and everything, but it's this is going to be very powerful going forward. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and go through the committee now and see if there's any questions by committee members. Pull that back up here. Here's the roll call sheet. Alderman Boyd, do you have any questions?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Otis, can you tell me on the dashboard, do we have current redevelopment plans where developers across the country can view for opportunities?
Say it again, Alderman. I'm sorry.
Do you have on the dashboard all the redevelopment plans that are currently in place in the city of St. Louis, whereby developers across the country could have access to it for potential opportunities?
We do not, but we will be posting all of those right now. I think the only ones that we have are the current TIFs, so that's the dashboard we're currently in. But I think what our goal is to make all of the opportunities that would be available on our website, so that folks will be able to look at that from across the country. It is not currently there, except for where we have active RFPs. We have that up there.
Active RFPs.
Correct. Request for proposals. So I would dare say, if you look at it, we probably have 2 or 3 that are on that website right now. I know one that is at, and Alderwoman Navarro's work is active there currently.
I know he's.
I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you, Otis. I heard you last thing you said something about Alderwoman Navarro.
I was just giving an example of an RFP that is currently active that's on our website where we are receiving proposals.
Okay, let me ask you this. So Alderman Boyd, myself, and Alderwoman Boyd has a redevelopment plan along West Flores, and I have one along MLK. John Collins Muhammad has one along Natural Bridge. How do we get those redevelopment plans promoted so that we can get some attention over in our desperately needed area?
I'll say that.
Yeah, but I'm going to let Matt Bauer, who has been monitoring those RFPs, speak and tell you where we are.
Okay.
Matt?
We have all the redevelopment areas mapped, so we can commit to having those up on the website, say by the end of the month.
But for those areas that you're talking about, for instance, for Alderwoman Boyd, we did an RFP for that one, working with them. We were putting together that one for the area at Goodfellow and Natural and Highway 70. You know, we did that one. We had it up, and sometimes those they get stale and we don't get any responses, but they're there.
I think you're talking about more generally promoting the redevelopment areas that have been approved, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So we have all those mapped, and we can get those up on the website in short order. So we'll move that up and try to get that up there by the end of the month.
Matt, let me ask you this. Are you the one in charge of promoting these redevelopment areas?
I will.
Well, he is along with all of us, but he has one task, and one of the things that hopefully that will come out of our sort of reorg as a result of the economic development strategy or framework is that we will have people that will be focused on specific areas, and it won't be just one person, but it will be a person that's responsible for that area that will make sure those happen.
Okay, what I think would be helpful is if we had a package that we can help as aldermen. You know, we're probably the biggest champions of our communities, but if I had a package that I could give to a developer, you know, have some network meetings with some developers, I can kind of help push things. I know SLDC staff is pretty thin, and I certainly appreciate all the work that you guys do, but I need to see a little more activity.
Understand.
And I'm willing to help.
And we appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Davis.
At the moment, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions. I do appreciate the additional efforts that have been put forward, because it gives us an opportunity for facts to be presented to the community. And it's easier for us to know exactly what is going on. So I just say thank you.
Alderwoman Hubbard has joined us. Alderwoman?
No questions at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Kotar?
Yeah, briefly, maybe more of a comment. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Otis and team, I'm looking at your spreadsheet here, and this is really helpful to see all these projects, you know, in one place like this. I just think maybe in the developer tab, like in certain instances, we use a developer's, whatever entity is developing it, and other parts we're just using a person's name, which I get because these are known people, but I think it would probably be helpful to maybe break that out and have the actual name of the developer, whether it's, you know, whoever is actually applying, whatever entity, and then a separate tab with maybe who the principal of that company is, just for our own, you know, so we can track these a little easier.
We can do that.
Thanks. That's it.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Otis. Thanks for sending the files in advance. Some of the graphs are hard to really read from this vantage point. It looks like they're going to be emailed to us. Could we follow up with some of that, and not the graphs, the maps, you know, just kind of to be able to.
We will, so that you can pull them up and look at them closer.
And I can send them a link to like.
Yeah. The maps on slides 5 through 8. I mean, I'm having a hard time understanding what was and I know you described this and I just didn't catch it, the blue versus the green.
The light blue is where all of the permits, so we were working with the building division to get where all of the permits that were granted for over 100,000. And so the light blues basically shows where all of them are. If they were green, it meant that there was some incentive provided.
The green is the sorry, Otis, the green are the incentivized projects and the blue are non-incentivized?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. And one thing that I think would be helpful too, as we kind of have shifted into some non-traditional or some new ways of doing of incentivizing projects, for example, tax assurance. It might be, I think it would be helpful to identify some of the different types of incentives, as we kind of, especially those that are moving in a more, in a different direction, one that might be, I think, have less impact on the city's budget.
We have that data. It just wasn't easily tabulated in the tables and the maps. So we do have that data, so we can provide.
Sure. Yeah, it might be helpful just as a visual, just to point out some of those new ways of doing tax incentives, especially for aldermen who are kind of going out on a limb doing those.
Yeah, and then also on the maps, I think we can provide links so that it was hard to make them interactive within this presentation format, but we have links that could be sent so that you could like scroll around and zoom in and search if
and the Cincinnati example is very interactive, so you would be able to manipulate it depending on what you're looking for.
So we'll send links to the maps and the examples.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
And so our goal is to get to that level, or at least that kind of response activity, if you will, that Cincinnati currently has. So that's what we're shooting for, something similar to that.
Great. Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate all the work here and the further explanation. That's all I have to share.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Otis, SLDC. I have just a quick question around, I'm looking at the map and the graph associated with, let's see, LRA properties were sold, LCRA properties designated for development projects, and you kind of give a 2019 list of the corresponding key. Do you have, I mean, I'm sure we have kind of past years. So like if you wanted to understand in the last 10 years to kind of put certain trend lines to LCRA or LRA properties sold, you would have that information as well, right? Year to year.
Yes, we do have it for LR, but definitely for LRA over the past few years.
Okay, great. Because I think that would be kind of interesting over the last decade to see the amount of LRA properties that were sold and those that were developed as well, and what amount were sold. Do you know off the top of your head maybe what amount were sold and then for whatever reason haven't materialized and either came back to LRA or kind of have remained undeveloped?
Well, these are rough numbers, but we can get you a more accurate report. But roughly over 6,000 properties have been sold over the last decade, and we've probably taken in. No, I'm sorry. Over 5,000 have been sold, and we've taken in over 6,000.
I see.
And so it's tough to.
Yeah, I understand. You're sort of right. Yep. You're taking in as you're selling and redeveloping, so to try to get an accurate number of that. I get that. That's a different analysis. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll just follow up with you and Matt and Zach and just to kind of, parse through that a little bit, if that's all right.
Yeah. I wanted to before we get off, is to just thank my staff, the guys that are sitting behind me here. They've been working feverishly to get this kind of data and move us forward to try and be more transparent. And so I want to say to them, as well as John Ferry, who's not here, and to Carrie Zinn, who is our one of our analysts as well, to bringing us to a modern age here. So we certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. It's an impressive place we're in now with our data than we were 5 years ago. So yeah, it definitely hats off to your staff. I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Boyd.
I have no questions right now, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Otis and SLGC.
Okay, well, actually, before we open it up beyond the committee, I just want to make sure that the list that you provided us on that spreadsheet, that list is projects that have received incentive, the projects that have been approved but not necessarily completed. Is that correct?
Correct. 2019 would be those that were approved, not necessarily completed.
Okay, but the maps with the circles, those would be building permits issued. So we're talking a much higher probability of those projects being completed. I presume we're tracking the completed projects.
Yes.
And we can drill down into all that at some point. And I want to make sure I understand this. So the blue circles, each blue circle represents a project that had at least $100,000 completed without incentives. And then the green circles is the overlap. That would be a project that was approved. It's a building permit that was issued that did in fact have incentives associated with it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. We have, I see we have several members not on the committee. It's kind of a long list here. If anybody has a question that's not on the committee, if you raise your hand, I presume everybody knows how to do that off of their screen. I don't see any hands raised. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, then we'll go ahead and start taking up the board bills. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. This is, really where we wanted to get with. We're not there, we're not all the way there, but this is a huge strides in the last couple of years. Thank you all very much for your hard work. Really did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go back then, and we'll go back to the agenda. And if I can find it. Okay. I apologize. I'm not really sure what the seniority. I believe Alderman Bosley is the most senior of the three older people who aren't here, who aren't on the committee. Is Alderman Bosley present? Alderman, you want to take up board bill number 7?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So board bill number 7 is just a board bill. Thank you. Just a board bill to change the zoning in a development that we have over at over around Gamble and Jefferson. We asked for a tax abatement on this some time ago, I believe right before COVID started. It's a $10 million project for doorways and rise. It's a AIDS facility, and we also will have some commercial spaces. Their headquarters was headquartered in Alderman Rowley's ward, and they are moving right up the street there, right off Jefferson down the street from the NGA. So we just want to just switch that zoning up so they can vacate the premises and do what they need to do with the land so we can get this development on the way.
All right. There was no one who signed up to speak on behalf of this bill. Matter of fact, none of the bills had a register. So we have no speakers today on any of the bills. We'll go through the committee at this point. We'll provide committee members an opportunity to ask questions. Alderman Boyd.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Davis.
I don't have any questions. I just want to commend Alderman Bosley for working so well with Doorways. They're a very reputable organization. I've been working with them and supporting them for over 25 years, and they currently have facilities in my ward, and they're very, very good stewards of their properties. And I just wanted to say congratulations, and I hope everything moves forward well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Hubbard, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to commend the Alderman of the 3rd as well on his efforts. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this project come to fruition. It's right across the street from the 5th. So I know my constituents could use the services that they provide. And I believe it will encompass a bank and all of that. So I'm looking forward to that in the 5th Ward in my ward. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Alderman Kotar.
No questions.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman.
Congratulations. Yeah, just to commend the project. No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Alderman Oldenburg.
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Boyd. I thought Alderwoman Boyd is here, is she not? I don't see her at this point. Did Alderwoman Boyd drop off?
So
I'm sorry, do you see her?
I don't see her either.
Okay, I presume something came up. Okay. Hearing no other questions, the chair will entertain a motion.
I move that we pass board bill number 7 out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderman Coder,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd, Chairman Rhodey.
Aye.
7 aye votes.
Okay, by our vote, we have sustained the motion, and board bill number 7 will pass out of committee with a due pass recommendation. I apologize. I am not sure who's the more senior of the alder people left. I'm gonna take a shot at this and just go by number, I guess. Alderwoman Hubbard has board bill number 4. Alderwoman Hubbard, Clark Hubbard, do you care to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Board bill number 4 is a zoning change from E to H on the commercial area commercial district at 5637 Pershing. I'm asking for your favorable consideration and a due pass recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. There are no speakers, as I said earlier. Alderman Boyd, do you have any questions?
Actually, I do. Alderwoman, can you remind us what project is happening at this site?
Yes, this is the HUDZ development on the old Tulaney site at the corner of the Bolivar and Pershing.
Okay, thank you.
Alderwoman Davis.
No questions, thank you.
Alderwoman Hubbard.
No questions.
Alderman Kotar.
No questions.
Alderwoman Spencer.
No questions.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Just quickly, I'm sorry, and it's mainly out of curiosity because I used to live right there, Alderwoman. What is the reuse?
It's going to be a multi-use building. It's going to have a residential and commercial and a parking garage at the basement level.
Got it.
Underground.
This is right next to the metro station, correct?
No, it's not right next to the metro station. It's on the northeast corner. So where the Tulaney's used to be, and across from that is a couple of buildings, and then the Kiss and Ride lot, and then the metro.
Got it. Got it. So it's not, yeah, it's on the northeast side. Okay. The old
Mhm.
pizza. Cool. All right. Well, congratulations. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Boyd, I don't think I didn't see where she.
Mr. Chair, I'm in the doctor's office, and that's why I had to leave. And so I'm multitasking. I have no questions, so.
All right. Thank you, Alderwoman. Having the chair, with no other questions, the chair will entertain a motion that we pass out of committee. Board Bill number, what is that, number 4?
I move that we adopt Board Bill 4 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous roll.
Oh, we missed Alderwoman Boyd on the previous roll, so why don't we? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd. Alderwoman Davis.
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderman Coder.
Aye. Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Oh, well, we went through all that and I guess we lost her again.
Chairman Rhodey.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. 7 aye votes.
Okay. All right, by your vote, we passed out of committee Board Bill number 4. Next up, Board Bill number 5, Alderwoman from the 28th Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Board Bill 5 is also a rezoning of a relatively newly created parcel. So this, and you can see on the map, this is a small parcel that is on the northern side of an alley that backs up to Delmar. So this is on the kind of the northern edge of the Central West End, right along Delmar. So between Union and Kings Highway. And there's a small, it's an interesting, I'll just give you a little bit of tidbit so you understand what's going on here. We're going from B to H in this particular area. And this is because there's a small, like I said, it's a newly created parcel at the back of a parcel on a single family street on Washington that there's been a small structure there that most recently was a church. And it's now, the desire is to convert it to an architectural firm. And where this parcel sits, like I said, across the alley is H commercial district right there in Delmar. And then on the other side is a single family neighborhood. And so this little building on this newly created parcel is actually part of a much larger development that's going on the Delmar corridor. And so in order for this building, which doesn't have a whole lot of other uses, kind of backing up to this residential street. The desire is, like I said, for an architectural firm to go in there. And so to convert that to H so that it would match up with the other zones and other uses right there kind of in that Delmar corridor. So I ask for your favorable recommendation in rezoning that parcel. Like I said, it's on Lake in Washington, just south of Delmar. So I'm sorry, on the south side of the alley. I might have gotten that confused. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
There are no speakers. Alderman Boyd, do you have any questions? Alderman Boyd?
No questions.
Alderwoman Davis?
No questions.
I'm sorry, I lost my list again. I'm going to just go from memory and find my list well.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alderwoman.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Kodar, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, the Alderwoman from the 20th had no questions. Alderman from the 16th.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And the Alderwoman from the 27th, who's kind of in and out, is she? Let's see. Okay. Hearing no other questions, the chair will entertain a motion on this board bill. Someone?
Oh, shoot.
I move that we adopt Board Bill 5 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
Previous roll.
Request for previous roll. Hearing no objections, we'll here consider Board Bill number 5 passed out of committee with the due pass recommendation.
Thank you.
Alderman Kodar, you want to take up your Board Bill number 22?
Certainly, Chairman. Board Bill 22 is also a rezoning bill for a project that we recently, I guess at the end of last session, approved the incentives for down in Soulard. This is the area just to the north of Soulard Market, really at just north of the Market and 7th Street there. It's the old Broadway Ford truck bays where they used to service 18-wheelers. There was a massive fire there a couple of years ago, and they're selling that land for a mixed-use development. It's about an $80 million project. Vic Alston is the developer. We approved a 10-year, I think 90% tax abatement. It's about 350 units and some first-floor retail and a big dog park for the neighborhood. So this is simply a rezoning from J industrial to G local commercial for this big site. And I would ask for your favorable consideration.
Alderman Boyd, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Alderwoman Davis?
No questions, thank you.
Alderwoman Hubbard?
No questions.
Alderwoman Spencer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderman Coder, this is the Broadway the truck company that they're selling the property. I was under the impression they were rehabbing that property and moving their location back there.
So they're rehabbing some different properties. So they have their property split by 7th Street. So they do their sales on the east side of 7th Street, and they have some service bays there. And then they had service bays on the west side of 7th Street, which is this parcel. And they are selling this parcel only, and they are building a new facility a little bit north of downtown.
Okay, I didn't appreciate all those intricacies. Glad to hear they're still moving forward with that. Thank you. I have no further questions, Mr. Chair.
And I don't think Alderwoman Boyd has rejoined us, but we don't want to overlook anyone. That he has not. So the chair will at this point entertain a motion for Board Bill number 22.
I move that we adopt Board Bill 22 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objections, we'll consider Board Bill heard and passed out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Now we're back to mine, and I got too many screens open here. Let me try to find where we are. I guess we're back to mine. We have Board Bill number 2. Is Mary Hart available? Mary, do you want to step up and explain these board bills for us?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Board Bill number 2 is a rezoning at 4170 Folsom. The rezoning is from multiple different dwelling districts, D and F and F, all to the D district. The proposal is to rezone this so they can combine it with adjacent parcels that they have, and then they'll re-subdivide and build 4 new single-family homes here. I'm searching for the name. And then Urban Improvement Conglomerate, or UIC, is the architect and developer of the project.
Okay. Any questions, Alderman Boyd? Alderman Boyd?
No questions, thank you.
Alderwoman Davis?
No questions. It's just good to see that that particular area that we share has such a good mix of development, affordable housing, multi-use units, and market rate. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman Hubbard.
No questions.
Alderman Kotar.
No question.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Spencer.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Gosh, Alderman Oldenburg, I'm sorry. I think I might have missed you last time. Alderman Oldenburg, any questions?
I didn't have any questions then, and don't have any on this one. Thank you.
Alderwoman Boyd. Okay. Having no other questions, the chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved and seconded by the Alderman. Request for previous roll. Hearing no objections to previous roll, Board Bill number 2 will be passed out of committee with the due pass recommendation. Mary, talk to us about Board Bill number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Form of this part.
Board Bill number 3 is the establishment of an overlay district called a plan unit development. We refer to this project as the Iron Hill PUD. The proposal is for a 9-building mixed-use development with buildings of varying height from 1 to 10 stories. They'll have about 200,000 square feet of commercial space, about 300,000 square feet of office space, approximately 600 multifamily residential dwelling units, 400 hotel rooms, and up to 1,800 parking spaces across the development. The developer is the Iron Hill LLC. And that's about it. Does anyone have any questions?
Alderman Boyd, any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Alderwoman Davis, any questions?
No questions.
Alderwoman Hubbard, any questions?
No questions. No questions.
Alderman Kodar.
No question, Chairman. I would request a roll call vote. I have to abstain on this. My law firm's involved in the project.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Mr. Chair, I do have a couple questions. I'm having a hard time getting the drive to down. Can you skip me and come back? If there's an opportunity, if Oldenburg has questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Alderman Oldenburg, any questions?
I do not, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
And, is Alderwoman Boyd back by any chance, or I don't see her? No. Okay. Alderwoman Spencer, we'll come back to you. We can wait for a minute. It's important that we provide everybody an opportunity to. This is the project. While you do that, I'll buy some time here. This is a project at the northwest corner of Grand and Shoto, and it is in the Midtown redevelopment area, which is the redevelopment area that was created by St. Louis University and SSM, and it is it's going to be mixed. The intent is for it to be mixed use with some retail, some residential, perhaps a hotel, and maybe some office space.
And Mr. Chair, currently this is just we're just rezoning these.
Yes, there will be a request for incentives. It's been before the TIF Commission, and we have we're still in discussions with them regarding it has passed out of the TIF Commission, and I'm having conversations with them at this point before we introduce any of the incentive legislation.
Okay, so is that coming, that you're still working the details of that out?
Right. If I had a guess, I would think that we'll probably introduce the legislation before we go down for recess. But at this point, I don't think we'll be taking up in committee at that point. So it'll probably be near the end of our session before it gets introduced, and probably when we come back in the fall, if I had a guess.
Got it. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all the questions I have.
If there are no other questions, then the chair will entertain a motion. Alderman Coder.
Number 3.
I can't make the motion, Chair, because I'm recusing myself.
Forgot. I apologize.
Oh,
What's the board bill?
It is
Board Bill 3.
Okay. I move that board bill number 3 comes out of committee with a do pass recommendation.
Second.
Yeah.
Been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Davis,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderman Coder,
Abstain.
Alderwoman Spencer,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd, Chairman Rhodey.
Aye.
I'm sorry,
Aye.
6 aye votes and 1 abstain.
Okay. By our vote, this passes out of committee with a do pass recommendation. I think that concludes the business for today, doesn't? I guess I should check the agenda and make sure before we. Yeah, I guess that's it. The only thing left is an announcement. Our next meeting will be on the 7th, the 24th, excuse me, the 24th. At that time, we'll have an update, or actually we'll have a briefing from a representative of the Federal Reserve talking about the economic impact of the pandemic. And then we will be taking up a number of bills that SLDC advertising. So if there's nothing else, the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move for adjournment.
Moved, I'll second. All those.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks everyone for your time today. Meeting adjourned.